Hey baseball fans, I'm Matt Gross, aka the Rhode Island Rocky fan, and welcome to another episode of Purple Row Video. Now originally this video was supposed to go up yesterday, but there's an interesting little story behind that, so I'll start off this episode by sharing that with you. So, yesterday, as you know, the Rockies were playing the Braves during the afternoon hours, and those were basically the only hours I had for to shoot the video. So, get home, I start watching the Rockies. I'm torn between a couple different things I want to talk about in the video. As I'm watching this, I'm really angry because the Rockies, as you know, were losing for most of that game. And they were about to drop 4 straight, get swept by Atlanta, undo the first 5 wins they had in the homestand, basically. They were going to basically have a barely over 500 homestand after that great start, which is really crucial for the Rockies to win at home, because as we know, the formula usually is for them to be successful is to be about 20 games over 500 at home and 500 on the road. So, wasn't happy about that. Getting late in the game, they're running into the teeth of Atlanta's bullpen. They're down by a couple of runs, and I am just not happy. So after the Rockies get out in the 8th inning and they're down by 2 runs with 3 outs to play with and Craig Kimbrell on the mound against them, I am furious. So I decided to shoot a video complaining about how the Rockies just lost 4 straight games and about to get swept by Atlanta at home, and basically undo everything good that they had done up to that point in the homestand. So I shoot the video, I have it ready to go, about to step out of the house, can't upload it yet, I'm waiting for the final 3 outs, and lo and behold, the Rockies came back against the best closer in baseball, so that rendered that video useless, thankfully, and now here we are today. So, going back to talk a little bit about what I was going to yesterday, the reason why yesterday's game was such a good win is because the Rockies are in a really tricky little spot in their schedule. They had lost the 3 games going into yesterday afternoon, and they have a 7-game road trip coming up. So if they had lost that game yesterday, you would be talking about going 0-4 into a tough 7-game road trip in Arizona and in Los Angeles. So that's what made that so sweet yesterday. Not just because it was a great win, but because the Rockies are really in a point where you just want them to hang on for a little while until they get Jhoulys Chacín back. That's really the big problem, because it seems to me where it's starting to settle in a little bit, where the Rockies have 2 pitchers in Jhoulys Chacín and Jorge De La Rosa, where they can be pretty confident they're going to win the game when they send those 2 out on the mound. And then a bunch of other guys who you're kind of hoping you can play 500 ball when they're out there in all of their games combined together. Sometimes, like John Galton, sometimes he's going to be great. Last time out, he struggled. Jeff Francis has been mostly poor so far. He might be able to squeeze out some good starts. You're really just in survival mode with him. Juan Nicasio, you hope to get more out of him than you've seen. But the bottom line is, if Jhoulys Chacín or Jorge De La Rosa are not on the mound, you're going to have to probably score some runs to win, or the bullpen is going to have to be completely lights out, which is actually what you got yesterday, which was part of yesterday's win in Tyler Chatwood. That's one of the strengths that we outlined last week. But in any case, looking at the way this breaks down right now, the Rockies, obviously, Chacín's on the DL. So where you sit right now, games like tonight, where Jorge De La Rosa starts against Trevor Cahill in Arizona, become huge. Because if you don't win the Jorge De La Rosa game, then you're going to wait. You're going to go through 4 more games before you get back to him, and really a spot in the rotation where you feel really comfortable that you can win. So that's just the position the Rockies are in right now is a very tricky one as far as hanging on to what they accomplished in the first 17, 18 games of the season. Remember, they were 3 outs away on Sunday afternoon from getting 10 games over 500. They were almost 14-4 before the ground balls got through in the disastrous 9th inning that Wilton Lopez had against the Diamondbacks. He didn't even pitch that badly. It just everything just worked out bad. But the Rockies have had a lot of good breaks, but that just was an afternoon where it didn't go their way. But in any, looking at this road trip when they're coming up, if they had lost yesterday's game, you could have very easily envisioned a scenario where they had 0-4 at the end of that homestand, and then went something like 2-5 on this road trip because you didn't have Chacín. And ended up something like a 2-9 stretch, even a 3-8 stretch, which really would have undone almost all of their starts for its number of games to get over 500. I think the point right now is I want the Rockies to get through the end of April at least 6 games over 500. They're 7 right now at 14-7. You could sneak out something like a 3-4 road trip. You just survive this road trip and then get back home again where you got a couple more good teams. This is a tough little stretch. You can get out of this stretch here, still being 5, 6, 7 games over 500. That's going to be pretty good for you in the long run. And I'm telling you right, going into this series, looking ahead, Arizona scares me. They have already had several wins this year that really speak a lot about that club. If you look at, they went deep into extra innings against St. Louis earlier this year. I believe it's 16, 17, 18 innings. They won that game. They won the final game against the Yankees when they were almost going to get swept in a game that went to extra innings. They won in 12 innings there. They almost got swept by the Rockies, came back and got 2 runs off Lopez to win the final game in Coors Field last weekend. Then they went to San Francisco. It was a brutal road trip. They at the Yankees, at the Rockies, at the Giants. And then won 2 out of 3 in San Francisco. And in both games that they won, they went to extra innings after the Giants played a little hocus-pocus in the ninth where they come back. They do that so often. The Diamondbacks said, we don't care. We're back in the road trip. We're going to still come back and beat you in extra innings. That's exactly what they did. So Arizona now, they finally get home. They're going to get the Rockies in a spot where they're going to get 3 of our vulnerable pitchers because Chacin's on the DL in this 4-game series. And that really makes tonight's game with Jorge De La Rosa a big one because despite the Rockies' great start and Arizona being on the road, the Diamondbacks are only 2 games behind the Rockies right now. And if they take 3 out of 4, that great start the Rockies where they get ahead of Arizona is completely wiped out. So for the Rockies, you really want to take tonight's game with Jorge De La Rosa on the mound, making it so you only have to take one of the other 3 to split the series. If the Rockies lose tonight, you could still be involved in a pretty ugly stretch here. So that's pretty much where they're at. They're in survival mode right now. The Rockies showed you a lot yesterday, coming back and winning that game. And hopefully they can continue to show something, squeak out some games here with the offense and with the bullpen. And maybe some of the starting pitching surprise you. But they are definitely in survival mode right now. You get Chacin back, and you get to a point maybe later in the year where Arenado comes up, you get more help. They could surprise you. So it's been an interesting start. A great win yesterday. And now you got to go into survival mode on the road trip. That's where we're at. That's this episode of Purple Row Video. And I'll see you around Purple Row.